Yo, what's going on? Welcome to another episode of the It's Needed podcast, where we discuss real issues involving law enforcement in the community. It's your boy Ryan Tillman, founder of Breaking Barriers United, and I'm joined today by the light-skinned wonder himself, Mr. Oh No, It's the Popo.
Billy, we need to add in some special effects when we say my name. Like, I want like confetti shooting in from the side. I need strobe lights. I need all of that. Like a little rap.
If he gets that, then I'm gonna need some trumpets.
Yeah, I need somebody jumping out rapping like, yeah. Oh no, it's the Popo.
Somebody scream.
Faux show.
Well, if he gets that, bro, I need some brass in mine, bro.
No, we're gonna give you the what's the big brass instrument they play? It's like sad. That's what they gonna play.
Oh man. And we're also joined by the savage himself, Mr. Billy. What's going on, Billy?
Nothing much. Just looking to move to Flavortown.
You know, messed it up, Billy. We're going to move to Doritoville.
Oh, man. There are so many things I need to get caught up on. What is it, Flavortown or Florida? What is it called?
That's Ohio, Columbus, Ohio. It's Flavortown.
Flavortown, what does that mean?
I don't know.
So, listen, because Columbus can't be Columbus anymore, they started a petition, and it has over like 100,000 signatures already to rename the city of Columbus Flavortown, Ohio. And listen, the reason why is because who does Man vs. Food? Guy Fiero?
Yeah.
The guy with the bleached tips?
Yes. So he's from here, I want to say. And during an interview years ago, he made reference like, man, they should rename Columbus Flavortown.
Bruh,
and people are taking this serious.
Where do we draw the freaking line?
We're
like
becoming a parody, you know? Just
listen, I had this talk with my wife last night, and it was a deep talk. I mean, it was probably like an hour and a half, and it was about just everything. And that was the exact question I posed. Like, okay, at what point do we say, all right, look, this is the line, and we are way past it. We are way past it.
Oh man, like
what's up with you, brother? What's up with you before we get into all this craziness?
Oh, bro, I'm just, the month of June was, even though it was a tragic month in many ways with the death of George Floyd, riot and protest, COVID, which we'll talk about all that stuff in a little bit. God just has been faithful, man, and just the opportunities that we've had to just be on a bigger platform, man, and just be able to share our testimony, share, what the words that God has given us. I mean, it's crazy, man. I think we traveled to Dallas a couple weeks ago. I got to do dinner with Dak Prescott, which was real cool, man. I'm about to tell you guys about that later on. So that was cool. And then, I was on Oprah last week, which was pretty cool. Your comment, bro, had me cracking up, bro.
Just, chilling with the Obamas.
With
we went out to breakfast the other day.
Hanging out with Auntie O, bro.
Trump keep calling me, which is annoying, so I got to field his calls.
Kanye, man, want to run for president. He asked me to be his running mate. Oh, man. So, but yeah, so that was cool. Just, man, there's been some surreal experiences, man. So again, I say that to say that, I'm not in all about it because I'm like, oh yeah, look at me, look at us. It's just more of, man, just God just allowing us to just be on bigger platforms to share a message in a world that is so dark right now, man. Like, oh
man, you are not lying about the dark part. So I don't know if I told you. I did tell you, but I didn't tell everybody else. So this will be like news to all the listeners. Your boy got kicked off of Facebook for no reason whatsoever, right? But I went to log into Facebook. It was like a week and a half ago, and they were just like, yeah, we disabled your account. And what they did is they disabled my personal account that controls the Oh No, It's the Popo account, so I can't post or, do anything on there. And I was not even fazed by it. Like, I told my wife, and she was like, oh my goodness. She was like, that sucks. And I was just like, actually, I'm cool with it. Like, anything that's going to get me away from this negativity, man, because every single time you open up Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, like any of that, man, the amount of negativity that pours into your body is overwhelming. So that kind of started a domino effect. And I haven't been on like social media that often, or as often as I usually am, because I got to protect my positivity, man. I gotta protect it. Like this, times are rough, and there's a lot of things going on in the world that we can't deny, nor should we. But at the same time, like, we have to protect like our well-beings, like we can't constantly allow like all this negativity to pour into us, all of this hate to be poured into us, and expect us to remain positive and to continue to share love. So every now and then you gotta, and I feel like I say this on every podcast, this is like my drawstring saying, you gotta take a step back and go, okay, let me protect this and collect myself, and then go back in the game.
Man, you're so right about that. Every time I log on, if it's not one thing, it's another. So let's do this. What we're going to do is, you guys notice we don't have any guests today, which is actually kind of cool. I mean, we've had some phenomenal guests the last 4 episodes, from the Lieutenant to Artie to Henner, and then to cap it off with Leon. Man, talk about stories from polar opposites, man. It was just been, again, even in the month of June, and it was just a crazy month with listenership. We had an all-time record for our podcast and downloads, which was phenomenal. It was astronomical. I mean, we've made really good strides every single month since we started this podcast, but last month, just to kind of give you guys some perspective, the month of May, we actually set a new record for monthly downloads, and in the month of June, we doubled that number. So just to kind of give you a little bit of perspective. So it's kind of crazy. But this week we wanted to do, before bringing another guest on, because we'll be back to having some guests on next week most likely. We wanted to just do like a little recap of what it is that we learned, what have we taken from every single one of these last episodes, and then what's the practicality of it, what's the application of it, because it's one thing to have guests on, but it's another thing to actually learn from what you've actually listened to and apply it to your life. But before we get into that, what I'd like to do is I would like to kind of go over some of the current events. And the reason I want to do current events a little differently this time is because I think this is the time that we need to air out how we feel. We need to vent how we feel. Sometimes we just brush over current events because they're just current events. But I think the month of June, and this whole 2020 in and of itself has just been a year, but specifically the month of June, there's been a lot of stuff that's gone on, and I think we need to vent it out and just talk about it and figure out like how are we feeling about it. So we're going to go down a list of current events, and I'm going to give you guys how I feel about it. AJ, Billy, same thing, and then we'll move on to talking about, we'll wrap it up with the recap of the last episodes. How's that sound?
Boom.
Sounds like a plan to me, brother.
Cool. So let's start with let's start with COVID, because COVID's probably been the longest current event. I mean, that started the end of the year, actually, from the end of December on into this year, and then we're steady. I know we had lockdowns. But then now you have, the lockdowns, and they lifted them, and then now they're locking it back down because everything is going back up. So tell me what your guys' thoughts are on COVID-19, and I'm going to give you guys my raw thoughts on it.
Let's hear it, Billy.
I think it's, if you want to wear, I think it's, obviously something to be taken seriously. If you want to wear a mask, or if we need to wear a mask, social distance, that's cool. Like, let's do it. Let's just keep each other safe. But the fact that COVID has now been turned into a political club that each side is beating each other across the face with, it's just like the people in power using us normal people's emotions to get political wins. And I'm not like a big conspiracy theorist or anything. It just sucks, like us normal everyday people like working and trying to do our best, and it just seems like they're using COVID as like this thing to make everyone upset, and it gets harder and harder to take it seriously when you start seeing things like, hey, you can't sing in church, and you can only have events of 10 people. But if you're protesting, there can be 100 and and it's all fine. It's like, come on, man, like the hypocrisy, and like it's just like, look, I'll wear my mask and I'll social distance, but it gets tiring,
Yeah.
What about you, AJ?
that's my major thing with it. Because, I'm doing my best to take the necessary precautions and, to take it as serious as possible. We've had some officers that I work with test positive. So your boy had to get tested twice, both of which came back negative, which is cool. And, I'm relieved. But that's an uneasy feeling. You got to wait 24 hours to get the results back. I'm constantly in contact with my mother, who is, who I don't want her to get it. So, I'm definitely taking it serious. But when you see things like, what Billy said, people in power who are like, look, you got to social distance. You have to social distance. You can't have groups larger than 5 or 10. We're taking this very serious. But if 5,000 of y'all want to go downtown and block the streets and cause chaos, go ahead and do that, because, we're cool with that. We support that. And it's just like, listen, like, stop using this for political gain. Like, if it's serious, it's serious, and say it's serious. Draw a hard line in the sand and say that this is where the line is at. If it's not, then say it's not, right? Then miss us with all of this. You can't do this, you can't do that. But make up your mind. Make up your mind, because a majority of us are listening, right? So it's frustrating. It's frustrating, and it seems like it's not going anywhere. Like, it seems like it's going to be around for a while.
So my thoughts on that are, I think if there's a common theme for every current event that we're going to bring up today, it's division. Like, every discussion, every topic we're going to talk about, the one common thing that comes out of it is division. And not even just division from a political standpoint, but a personal standpoint, like a family standpoint, a friend standpoint. As it relates to COVID, the division I've seen is this thing about masks. Like, do you wear your mask? Do you not wear your mask? And you have some people that are, on the fence of, I don't think we should wear a mask at all. They're stupid. The evidence shows that they don't really do much to protect us. But then you have those that are like, hey, no, you need to wear your mask. I almost got into this is actually kind of funny. Man, I don't think I told any of you guys this. We got on to, me and my wife, we flew to Dallas a couple weeks ago. And when we're on the plane, Karen actually,
You talking about the Karen meme or an actual Karen?
The Karen meme. My wife she had her mask, but it was below her nose, like around her mouth. Because that after a while, that thing it does get it's hot, man. And they even say it's not healthy because you're breathing your own carbon monoxide. So anyway, she had it below her nose as we're getting on the plane. And this one dude and his wife was like, hey, you need to put your mask over your face. So I looked over. I was like, hey, bro. I was like, you don't talk to my wife. I talk to my wife.
You said that?
Yeah.
Nice,
No.
nice.
Billy's like, oh, yes. Like, yeah.
Let's get him.
Yeah, I'll be coming at my bread. Yeah.
But he looked at it, and then so his wife looked over and tried to chime in too. And I'm like, yeah. Y'all don't talk to my wife. If something needs to be said to my wife, I'll talk to her. Y'all don't talk to her. And I almost got out of Christian for a second and went and took my seat. But it's funny is like you got two people that are, either you're super like, hey, nah, I don't think we need to wear these masks, or you're like, hey, we need to wear these masks, but there's no in between on that either, like none. And the thing is like, I get both sides of it. If I don't really mind wearing a mask if it's going to make you feel better, you know what I mean? But at the same time, what we're not addressing is, like, I've talked to some medical professionals and they're saying most of the people that are passing away are obese. And, I have obese people in my family. I have obese friends, and I'm not the most in shape guy either. But what we need to do is we have to be comfortable. I think we had an episode a few weeks back saying, comfortable being uncomfortable. What we need to do is be able to address the fact, like, maybe I should start eating a little bit more healthier. Maybe I should start working out a little bit more, because that's going to increase my odds of beating this COVID if I get it. You know what I mean? Because that's what's important. And at the same time, it is scary because, my dad, who is in a position that he cannot have anything, and my grandfather, he's 96, 97 years old. If I bring it to him, then I don't want to be responsible for transmitting it to him. So that's why I see both sides of it, because I'm like, man, I don't want to be the one that causes my dad or my grandfather to pass away or whatever it may be. But at the same time, we gotta be able to be comfortable and say, you know what, if I want to have the best odds of beating COVID, I need to start taking my health a little bit more serious. And I've actually made a personal vow. So I've been in the gym running all the other stuff, because it attacks your cardiovascular, it attacks your lungs. Yeah, it attacks your lungs, your respiratory system. That's what it attacks, your respiratory system. And so, but anyways, I say all that to say, man, this COVID thing has caused so much division. And then you have a governor, and I'm not to get all political, and you know what I mean, but at least in California, you have a governor right now that is telling people that you can't sing in church, but yet when people were protesting, there was nothing to be said about the protest. You know what I mean?
Wait, was that a real thing? Like, you can't specifically sing in church?
That was literally last week, one of the regulations that came out for COVID and this whole practicing the social norms is you can't sing in church. You can go worship. I mean, you can go to church, but you can't worship, which if we get to a spiritual aspect, now you're trying to suppress people from worshiping God. That's another aspect that I'm not even going to touch on. But you want to sit here and say you can't worship, but yet you allow people to go out there and break social distancing practices. People don't have masks on at these protests.
They're yelling.
And then the same governor said last week was, hey, you know what? Because they closed down beaches out here, or they closed down at least the parking structures. And he said, we're going to be enforcing, people, if you're out there and you're violate your, in these parking structures or whatever it may be, then, he, quote unquote, his words were, there's no sense in having a law if we're not going to enforce them. And in my mind, I'm thinking, we just sat here, we went through a whole month, people breaking all sorts of laws, looting, vandalism, whatever it may be. But yet, for the sake of the political positions and allowing people to voice how they feel, we're not going to enforce laws there. We're going to lower bail amounts so that way we can get rid of people. But on the same hand, now, because it's COVID related, we want to make sure that, you guys can't sing in church. Like, it just baffles me. And I think this whole, I hate the word woke. I hate using that word woke, because the wrong people use that word woke. Like,
oh my goodness.
Oh man. Oh, you ain't woke. You ain't woke. But no, like, if you were really woke, then you would realize, like, hey, look, check it out. Open your eyes. The same people that are putting regulations on COVID are the same people allowing people to break all the same social distancing practices that they put in place. There's a lot of hypocrisy going on right now in the name of politics. And if you can't see that, then you're not necessarily woke. You as woke as waking up this morning from your sleep. That's about as woke as you are. So that's like my spill on COVID.
The political climate today is outrageous. Outrageous. And you mix in like the amount of like pandering and everything else going on, it legitimately makes me sick to my stomach, which is part of the reason why I'm happy I'm not plugged into my phone like I was prior to me getting kicked off Facebook, because I'm not sure I would be able to handle it. I mean, you have politicians who are creating laws saying, okay, if you see somebody doing X, Y, and Z, you are to cite them or arrest them. We as police officers are doing the jobs that we signed up to do. We are citing and arresting these people. And then these same politicians are turning around and dropping the charges to make it look like they're the good guys and we're the bad guys. Yeah. And it's just like all this stuff that's happening behind closed doors is sickening. It's so sickening, And when I hear things like a governor, not a mayor, not city council, but a governor saying you can't sing, you can't worship God, I'm going to take away your religious rights, but you could go downtown and participate in what's more than likely going to turn into a criminal riot. That's the issue with me. That is the issue with me. And I don't care what side of the fence you're on. I know there's going to be some people that sends me some messages like, I can't believe you said that. Hear me out. If you can't see what I'm saying, you need to rewind this and listen to it again. That is the definition of a hypocrite. That is a definition.
There's
of
no
it.
balance. There's none.
There's none.
And that's
There's
what's
absolutely
sad.
none.
Matter of fact, Billy, after this, we're gonna make a video.
That's a new thing.
That's a new saying. We're gonna make a video. We're gonna make a video called Balance because people need to know what balance looks like. But go ahead, you were gonna say something.
I was
Billy.
gonna ask something, and actually, I can delete this if it's too political.
No.
You mentioned pandering, right? So, as Black people in America, what did you think about the whole like Nancy Pelosi like wearing the African scarf and taking a knee? To me, it's like it's almost like offensive. Like you think you're fixing anything? Like it's like obvious it was for a photo shoot,
bro.
100%.
And hey, people listening, like if you're Democrat, Republican, Libertarian, like there's good and bad on all sides. So I'm not trying to make a stance. Like
I like Billy. Billy always like, oh, hold on, before y'all leave our follow shit.
Yeah. But
Before y'all leave.
no matter what Republican, Democrat, whatever, it's like, come on, Nancy, like you didn't do anything. Like you took a knee and you probably had to get help getting back up because you're like freaking 190.
She did have to get help getting back up. But what kills me about it is you have people in those positions, right? Like positions that are that high up that are talking about, change needs to happen. We need change now. And it's like, you're the one who can make it happen.
Well,
like,
and
what are you
you've
talking
been in government
about?
for 6 decades. So
Well,
Like-
and
like-
that and the fact of when was it? I think it was it Biden's campaign? I can't remember whose campaign it was. And again, Republicans are just as much guilty on this. So for me, if I and not to get again political, but if I had to identify with somebody, like I would say I'm more independent because for me as an
100%.
independent, I could find balance in independency. You know what I mean? Because there's certain things I can see on both sides of the coin, but at the same time, I think it was Biden. Don't quote me on this, but I think there was a video of him at like a rally or something like that, and he's dancing to Juvenile, Back That Thing Up. That's not what it's called.
No, he's not,
I haven't
bro.
seen that, but that's awesome.
Bro, I think it
No,
was. I
he's
think
not,
it was Biden. I think it was Biden. I could be mistaken, but I know it was. I saw a political video. It was a politician that was trying to. It might have been. No, it wasn't Biden. It wasn't Biden. It was somebody else. This was when they were still trying to do the primary, the Democratic primary. They were trying to, and it was one of the presidential candidates at that time that was dancing to Back That Thing Up. And in my mind, I'm thinking like, wow, this is what we've come to. Like, I gotta dance to the same music you like in order to get your vote, as opposed to hearing me out and seeing what my stance is on the real issues in order to get my vote. And that's what's so scary. And the scary part of it is that as voters, as members of the community, we like those things. And so we're going to vote for those things. We're going to vote for him because he likes the same music I am, as opposed to actually looking at and delving into the real issues. So it's scary. That's why I bring this whole idea of balance and division up, is because we're being divided. And, if I have a thought, like if we were all three of us were to have a discussion and I thought differently than the way you guys think, the way society tells us is okay, we're no longer friends anymore. I heard something. There was a lady on social media today. She said something which actually resonated with me like tremendously. But she was like, it's sad because in the Black community, if I am a Republican in the Black community, then I'm now looked at as being a coon or a sellout or a traitor. And now my own people have blacklisted me because I don't identify with the same party they're in. Which, as I'm thinking about that, I'm thinking like, wow, like that's so true. Kind of like being a police officer, a Black police officer. As a Black police officer, to some people, I'm a sellout. I'm just working for the man. The way I used to think before I got in law enforcement, and I fell victim of this, is, oh, you work for the man, or you're a sellout, this and that, because that's kind of how I was led to believe or be raised in my thinking. You know what I mean? And so, as opposed to raising our kids to be, think independently, gather information, do their research, we're telling them, hey, this is what you need to be, and it's only because I'm telling you this is what you need to do. So, I know that COVID thing transitioned into a lot of politics, but I think the majority of this podcast actually is going to transition back into politics, because we're going to see it's election season. And in the name of politics, unfortunately, they're utilizing trauma and crisis for political gain, and that's a shame that they're doing
sad. It is sad. It is. It's beyond sad. It's sickening. It is sickening. Like, power is a disease, right? Like people get a little, or a drug, I should say. Like, people get a little taste of power, and they will put everything on the line to get more. Everything on the line to get more. They'll take, we were talking about like hot topics, so we talked about COVID, George Floyd. What else we talk about?
Well, let's go there. Let's go down the list because George Floyd is next. So go ahead.
Yeah. But all these things, and we could tie them all back to politics. Why? Because people are pulling on your heartstrings. Oh, they want to hear this. They want to see me dance. They want to see. We don't like police officers either. Yeah. Tear down the statues. Just like, stop. Be who you are. Like, be who you are. Like, stop being this person that just is willing to sacrifice who you actually are to get a couple votes and potentially put you in a position of power. Because ultimately, this might not even work out. And then what?
Yeah, exactly.
You looking like a fool.
Yep.
You are looking like a fool.
Yep. So moving on past COVID, 'cause I think we all got our vent session out about COVID. So y'all know, like I said, I'll throw on my mask. I'm not even tripping like that. But at the same time,
we have to here.
Yeah, well, we're supposed to in California too.
Some stores require it and stuff. So
I'm not enforcing it as an officer.
So the city of Columbus, the mayor just passed a law to where you have to wear it. Like, if you go outside, walking on the sidewalk, even if there's nobody around you, you have to wear a mask.
Here's the funny thing.
I'm not cool with that though. That's too far.
Yeah, here's the funny thing is I'm not enforcing that as a freaking police officer. I'm not giving you a ticket, bro.
And that's another defund the police. Let me write this down.
Yeah. So move on. So moving on. Let's go to George Floyd. So we're a month past the death of George Floyd. I think he passed away on June 4th. I think it was. I think it was June 4th. And so we are July was 6th or 7th? 6th. July 6th. And our world has literally been changed forever, I would say, in the way we police and everything like that. Since the George Floyd situation, we've had Chaz in Washington, which we'll get into that here in a second, but that was a crazy situation. We had the Brooks situation in Atlanta. And the reason I bring up George Floyd, and like I said before, is George Floyd's death was completely unjustified. Very unjustified. Not nothing that me or AJ signed up to do. Not nothing a majority of my partners signed up to do in this profession. The sad thing about that, going back to the word, because the two theme words today is division and balance. That's actually what the podcast name will be called, Division and Balance. The division that has been created on the heels of George Floyd's death has been ridiculous. Like, we have divided ourselves so much that either you're anti-cop or you're pro-cop. There is no in between to say, you know what, we can do better as police officers, but yet at the same time, the community needs to hold themselves accountable as well. There is no in between. Well, there is, but it's very small. It's us. It's a few of us. And so you're either on one side of the coin with this one. You know what? Defund the police, abolish the police department. We saw what happened in Chaz. I don't even know what they end up calling it. I think they end up calling it Chad or whatever. Chop, whatever it is. Yeah, they called it Chop. So if you guys aren't familiar with that, you had a group of people, and I think we talked about this on the podcast. You had a group of people that went into Washington and essentially took over a segment of the city, the police department included, and it was like a real life Sodom and Gomorrah in there. Like,
I thought it was Seattle.
Yeah, Seattle, Washington.
Seattle, yeah.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
My bad. Yeah, so AJ was like,
delete that, Billy. Delete that.
No, keep that. Keep that. Because now that's almost as bad as me saying I thought Chicago had oceans or whatever. But anyways, so yeah, the people go into Seattle, Washington, and as they're in there, they're literally there was no rules. So then what started happening was folks started getting shot up. I think they had like 7 shootings within the matter of like 2 weeks. Somebody got killed. And that guy, by the way, his dad, the victim's dad came out and said, hey, President Trump is the only one that called him or something like that. The mayor never called him. I don't know if the chief of police did. And then you also had somebody, and I don't know if this is real or not, but I saw it a couple of places trending, that somebody was trying to sue police departments because they never went in there to intervene after he got shot.
Well, I think they're suing a bunch of people are suing the mayor right now for not helping.
Well,
the city, they're suing the city.
The city.
And they gonna lose that. Listen, the city gonna pay out.
Oh yeah,
heck,
for sure.
Those are U.S. citizens that were abandoned. Like abandoned. I cannot believe that was even allowed.
So again, going back to political pressures, people are like, hey, abolish police departments. That sounds great. Let's just dismantle them. That's a prime example of what it is we would see if you get rid of a police department. So this whole idea of, hey, let's, I was 3 or 4 weeks ago, I was at a city hall meeting, and one of the ladies in attendance was like, first we're going to talk about defunding the police, and once we're successful there, then we'll talk about abolishing police departments. And I'm like, where is the balance here? Like, I get it. We can do better. I've come out and said as a police officer that we can do better as police officers. No doubt about it. We can increase our training. We can improve our empathy, our empathy towards the citizens. There's so many different ways that we can improve as police officers. So I agree. We do need to improve. But to abolish police departments? Come on now.
Let's talk about that. Okay. So there are two theories behind defund the police. The first theory was the initial one, right? Defund the police, meaning take all of the funding away from policing, and eventually there will be no more police department. I think people quickly realized, okay, that might not be the best idea. So then they came up with this term, well, let's reallocate funds. And this is the new / current term or definition of defunding the police, meaning they want to take funds slowly away from police departments and put them towards social workers. So I know a big push, at least where I'm at, is they want to replace police officers with social workers. Let me share a story with you. My first year on the department, I'm young, I'm excited, I'm ready to get after it, right? We get a call from an elderly couple. In the background, you hear like stuff breaking, like doors slamming, plates breaking, glass breaking in the background. And the couple's like, hey, our grandson just came over. He's in his early 20s. Something's not right with him right now. We don't know if he's like on something or if, something happened, but he just grabbed a frying pan and a knife and locked himself in our bedroom. So I'm like, all right, I'm there, right? I'm a new officer. I want to be first on scene. I'm flying down there. I pull up the same time 2 senior officers pull up. So we hop out the car. The way tasers work is you need lethal force backup, meaning if I pull my taser out, there should be another officer there who has a firearm just in case things turn sideways. We try to open the door. It's barricaded. We kick the door down. He's in the corner of the room, butt naked, covered in sweat and blood, because he had cut himself and he is experiencing excited delirium. So he is covered in sweat. He is holding a frying pan in one hand and a large kitchen knife in the other hand. So we're like, tase him. So we turn the taser on. He sees the red dot on him because there's a laser beam attached to the taser. He drops the pan and starts swiping at the taser. So he's distracted. So we're like, hey, light him up. He still has his taser on him. So they pop him with the taser. He rips a taser prong out and starts stabbing himself in the leg. He's not even flinching. At least 5 times. Stab. Didn't even flinch. So we're like, tase him again, hit him again. They hit him again. He tightens up. We grab him. We're wrestling around with him. We get the knife away from him. We get him in handcuffs. The medics show up. They strap him to a backboard. He snaps the backboard in half. He does a setup while he's strapped into the backboard and snaps it in half in the back of the medic. Now, I'm the only officer in the back of the medic. I'm on top of him. They had to paralyze him. They had to give him a drug to paralyze him. How do you think that would have worked out if social workers would have responded? Because keep in mind, this movement behind reallocating funds for social workers is to hire social workers to respond to mental health crisis issues instead of police. And this run was exactly that. This run was a mental health crisis. social workers respond, what do you think the outcome would have been? It would have been a homicide. I'm telling you right now, it would have been a homicide. That dude would have seen those social workers and stabbed one of them and killed them. Is that the world you want to live in? And then what? And then what would have happened? Would you, once again, this is my drawstring saying, would you take a step back and go, okay, yeah, we were wrong. We got to rethink this. Let's get more police officers out here. I hate to say it, by that time the damage is done. A lot of people are not going to want to be police officers at that point. What are we going to do? What are we going to do?
So that's crazy. And you're exactly right. And people, I think we have a tendency to react based off of emotion. I've said this before. We react based off of emotion as opposed to logic or facts. And so we say, oh, yeah, like in Minneapolis, let's get rid of the police. Everybody votes in favor. Aye. It goes across the board. Okay, what do we do?
Right.
No plan. So I want to read this to you. So this whole reallocation of funds, because again, like you said, it started as defunding, just get rid of all the funding, and then it went to reallocation. Well, the LA County Sheriff's Department is one of the largest departments in the country. Also one of the most largely funded police departments in the country. So they proposed a bill that is going to cut to about 145 million in certain areas to the department. The CEO's recommendation for the budget from May was 3.50 of shortfall, 400 million. So they're trying to cut 400 million from the budget. But but this is what's crazy. The CEO's proposed budget recommends the following LASD units be eliminated. Now this is where it's going to get kind of crazy. Safe Streets Bureau, that's their gang team. So as part of the budget cuts or the reallocation of funds, we want to call it, they're going to eliminate the gang unit. The Parks Bureau. Here's another crazy one. Special Victims Bureau, which they investigate sexual/physical abuse of children, rape, and human trafficking. If you are not aware, if you're not woke, one of the largest growing crimes in our country right now is human trafficking.
That's terrible.
Human trafficking is at all-time records, at all-time highs. Little kids, young little girls, little boys are being human trafficked all across the world, and it's skyrocketing because I actually heard a statistic that you can pay people are getting paid about $15,000 per person to human traffic somebody. So you're going to eliminate a bureau that investigates human trafficking. Let's get away from the human trafficking side of it. Let's talk about sexual and physical abuse of children and rapes. So if you're the one that gets raped or your family member gets raped, who's going to investigate that? Well, they've eliminated that. So now your predator is still going to be out there, go scot-free, because nobody's going to investigate it. And if they try to investigate it at the patrol level, we're already, we're already overworked on patrol as it is. Your case is never going to got to, or that didn't even make sense. Your case is never even going to, come to the surface to be investigated simply because there's nobody to do it. So they're going to get rid of that. I'm going to hold that thought.
Yep.
The other thing that they're going to get rid of, Community Partnership Bureau, the cops team. What everybody's screaming out, hey, we want more community-oriented policing. Well, there's actual bureaus in certain departments that are dedicated towards that. It's called cops. So now they're going to get rid of the same entity that was out there to community police. They got to get rid of that because of the reallocation of funds. Here goes another one, Fraud and Cyber Crimes Bureau. Do you know how much fraud has increased? Do you know how many cyber crimes have increased with the great invention of the internet? At all times, it's outrageous. I was a victim of it a couple years ago where my credit card got stolen. Somebody went to Texas and tried to buy a Harley Davidson in my name. And then they got like 4. Yeah, right. True.
They must not know your credit ain't that good.
Yeah, bro. You can't get no Harley with a 300 credit score, bro.
We
Sorry.
got a Huffy in the back.
Yeah, sorry.
Bro.
That's why I got denied. And then they tried to open up like bought 3 cell phones under my name. But cyber crimes are going up. And then here's the other one, the Major Crimes Bureau. You know what falls under the Major Crimes Bureau? Homicides, murder. So with the recommendation of this reallocation of funds, They're now going to eliminate all of these different units that I talked about. So now the question becomes, well, when you're the victim of one of those crimes, then what happens?
I'm going to tell you what happens.
Go ahead.
If you are related to someone who's killed, right? We'll just use the major crimes. If you're related to someone who is killed and there are no longer major crime / homicide detectives, that burden of the investigation is going to fall. And I shouldn't say burden. That investigation is going to fall onto a patrol officer who is already swamped as is.
Overworked.
Trust me when I say that. Already overwhelmed as is. So guess where that investigation is going to sit? In the queue. It is going to sit in the queue and not go anywhere for a while. And what's the outcome of that going to be? People are going to be upset. They're going to be pissed off at the police, and they're going to think it's our fault. Here's an idea. How about instead of reallocate funds and defund the police, how about we figure out ways to get more funding into police departments to acquire your desired effect, right? Like you were saying, police officers are not trained enough, but you want to strip away money from us? How does that work?
Well, it's almost. Go ahead.
We need officers in the community. We're tired of not seeing officers in the community. Well, we used to have programs like the Police Athletic League. We used to have programs like Cops. These programs get stripped away because they would rather spend that money on something else that we're not even going to go into detail about, that is not even police or community related. But yeah, here we are. You know, let's strip away the money.
Here's another one, because it says right here, it says, the CEO also recommends drastically reducing the following units: custody operations. Well, what is custody? When somebody goes to jail, there's custody operations that go into that. The other one is mental health evaluation teams, the MET team. One of the things that I've heard is we need more people to be mental health trained. And I agree 100% with that. But yet we're going to take away money that goes towards these units. So I know what the argument is going to be. Well, we're going to put that money towards other people that this is what their specialty is. But like AJ just gave an example earlier, you go on a guy that has a knife and a mental health, he's going through a mental health crisis. Is that the time and place to try to negotiate with this guy? Yeah, we want to try to negotiate with them, but at the same time, you also have to have a plan if the negotiations don't work. Are our, therapists going to be able to do that? Are they going to be able to negotiate somebody and be able to tactically respond when negotiations don't work? So it's kind of just crazy to me that, we talk about defunding the police, but yet they're eliminating. I'm just going to say it one more time because I really want to overemphasize these units to you guys, because I don't think you guys understand the importance of every single one of these units. And the sad thing is the reason why it's so easy for them to say, let's get rid of it, is because they don't know what goes into these units. It just sounds, you look at it on paper, you're looking at numbers like, oh, cut here, cut there, not even realizing that, shoot, one of these units probably prevented you from being the victim of it. So the Safe Streets Bureau, Gang Enforcement, Parks Bureau, Special Victims Bureau, which is sexual/physical abuse of children, rape, human trafficking, Community Partnerships Bureau, Cops Team, Fraud and Cybercrimes Bureau, and Major Crimes Bureau. You probably don't even realize that one of those units probably prevented you from becoming the next victim because of our proactive enforcement work. Gangs. You're going to get rid of a gang unit. So what do you guys think the gang's going to do out there? Oh, you know what, guys? Man, they got rid of the gang unit. There's no sense in being a gang anymore because we ain't got nobody to chase us. So let's just put our gang banging away.
Right.
Negative. They're like, oh, cool. Now we can push the dope as easy as we want to. Now we can human traffic as easy as we need to. We ain't got nobody enforcing it. There is no punishment. So we got to be smarter with what we're doing. And so I say this as an encouragement to really, and like I said, I hate using this word, but I'm going to use it, really get woke. Do your research. Find out what defunding the police really means. Find out what reallocation really means and use your voice to say something. You cannot sit quiet anymore. You cannot stay quiet anymore. Quiet does not get the job done. There are enough people out there that are in opposition to all of these things, and their voice is loud enough. Who's going to be there to be the adversarial to them and say, you know what, no, we're not going to do this. The last thing I'm going to say is I always use analogies. When I played college football, one of the things that they did at my college campus is they invested in the new equipment every single year to help us become the most optimal premier athletes in the country. Whether it was a new weight system, whether it was a new training system, whether it was new protein, whether it was new equipment, whatever it is, they got the best equipment out because they wanted us to play phenomenally when it came time on Saturday. Why would we not want to invest money into the system that could potentially save my life or one of my family members' life? I get it. We ain't always had the best people in our profession. I'm not discounting that. As a matter of fact, some of these people need to get out of our profession. I saw something recently that said there's a lot of police officers trying to get out. Well, if you're trying to get out right now, that just means you shouldn't have been in the profession in the first place. I get it. It sucks, but we're not going to run from danger. We're not going to run from adversity. So that's why I signed to stay in it. You know what I mean? But at the same time, like, we gotta be smart about this, and we gotta say, you know what, let's put money into the system so that way it can become a better system, as opposed to say, you know what, let's just take all the money out of it and then we'll figure out how we're gonna do it. We already saw what happens in Chaz when they do that. You know, do you want your community looking like Chaz? Ask yourself that question.
Yeah, 100%, man. And it's, I think when it's broken down to its simplest form, you have to understand, like, and don't think that I'm saying, there's not bad police officers. We've addressed this 1,000 times on every podcast, on social media, private conversations, public conversations, what have you. Not to take away anything that happened during the George Floyd incident and post George Floyd. But at the end of the day, you have to understand that we have a job that people are not ready to see. People are not ready to see what our job looks like. It's cool to go out here and dance with the kids and do foot races and, be that community police officer. But you can't get mad, when you see us in riot gear marching down the street. You can't get mad when you see us using force. You can't get mad when you see us running lights, and doing all this other stuff, driving around in armored vehicles, all these other things that people are making it seem like it's a big deal. We had I'll just say it. We had a city council meeting, a virtual city council meeting here in Central Ohio. And one of the city council members flat out asked, well, why do SWAT officers have camouflage? And it's just like, hearing that is like, is that a real question you're asking? Like, why do you think we have camouflage? Why do they need armored vehicles? I don't understand why you need armored vehicles. I mean, Ryan, you should know how in California y'all had one of the most famous bank shootouts, fully automatic weapons that lasted for how long? Hours.
Even more recently, San Bernardino, which happened in 2014, that one of the biggest terrorist attacks on human soil.
Come on, what happened in Vegas? Like it's not pretty, but it has to be done. Like it has to be done in order to keep America functioning the way that it has to. So it's just extremely disheartening. But on a much more positive note, there's good in every storm, right? If it wasn't for the rainy days, we wouldn't appreciate the sunshine day or the sunny days, sunshine days. Listen to me. And I know a lot of police officers listen to this, and I just want to let you know that you are needed now more than ever. You are needed now more than ever. I can't tell you the amount of messages I get on the daily, on the hour, of people who are like, look, this is rough for you guys. And I just want to let you know I support you. I talk to my brothers and sisters across the world. I'm talking London, Spain, Canada, like you name it. And, they're going through the same thing, but they say it too. Like, when I drive around, like there are a lot of people who like will wave at me and who will pull me aside and go, hey, I support you. So keep fighting. Like this is the time. This is the time. Think about all the times you sat in your cruiser not doing nothing, all the times you sat in the substation not doing nothing, and you're thinking like, why can't we get paid for this? Well, now is the time you're going to earn your money. You're going to go out there, people going to flip you off, people going to cuss at you, you're going to have really, really bad days. But don't forget why you took this job. Do not forget why you took this job.
Yep. Right now is the time, and like I said, I was just reading an article before we got on today about, police officers that are wanting to get out of the profession. Only 7% of the police officers that were out of 10,000, it was a survey of 10,000 officers. Of those 10,000 officers, only 7% of the officers recommended that their kid go into this profession. 7%. So I say that to say this is like, I wrote an article on this for Police One in Lexipol, and it was saying that, hey, right now is one of the best times to become a police officer. And I really stand by that, because right now you have the opportunity to be the change. So we, like AJ said, we have to go through this. The hope for me is, I tell people this is like, we have to go through this in order for the pendulum to start swinging back the other way and people realize the importance of what policing is here for. We have to go through this. In order for things to get done better, we have to go through some type of adversity. We have to go through some type of refining, and that's what's occurring right now. But the only way we're going to be able to swing that pendulum back in the right direction is by people to really wake up and see what's really going on. So, find hope. When I was kicking it with Auntie O, Tyler Perry was on there. Tyler Perry was on there, and he said something which is biblical. He said something that was cool. And he and like, again, this is biblical, but he says, now I'm drawing a blank. When it talks about joy comes in the morning time. Dang it, I'm drawing a blank. It's
was he talking in the Medea voice?
Nah, he wasn't talking in the Medea voice. But
Whack.
anyways, but he was just essentially, and I'm so mad I'm messing it up right now, but we just talking about the joy that comes in the morning time of this adversity we're coming in.
Weeping may endure for a night.
Yeah, there it is. Weeping may endure for a night, but joy comes in the morning time. And that's kind of what I hold my hat on. At the end of the day, God is still in control. I have not forgot about that. I don't think Billy or AJ's forgotten about that. And so that's where my hope is found. It doesn't mean there's not going to be rough days. There's definitely going to be rough days. But at the end of the day, God is still in control. And that's what's going to get us through it. Where are we at on time, Billy?
54.
Woo! All right, so go ahead.
Kanye for 2020.
Oh yeah. Kanye was the next. So I think our plans were to talk about some of the last episodes of the podcast. Maybe we'll save that for another one, just because I think this conversation actually was duly needed. I think it was important. And so, speaking of the next current event, was Kanye for 2020. As funny as it may sound, this sounds like it's serious. And so somebody sent me a text message the other day is, how can somebody like Kanye West, who has a social influence, be able to run for be the leader of the free world, essentially? And I actually kind of see both sides of it. I see it as one of those where that's actually cool that you can live in a country and have the ability, based on no merit, to run for the president of the country. At the same time, we got to go back to that word that I said at the beginning of this podcast, which is balance. Like, there's no balance right now. There's no balance. Like,
I want to see Kanye West during the debates. That's what I want to see. I want to see him snatch the mic from Trump and be like, "Yo, I'm gonna let you finish, but real quick."
Hey, oh yeah. And that would make for great entertainment, I tell you that. Ratings would be at an all-time high.
Goodness. Hey, these are going to be the most watched debates in the history of debates. Hey, speaking of, I just kind of off topic. Don't judge me, okay? Have y'all watched Hamilton?
Bruh, I was just about to bring that up. So I was watching it at my my in-laws the other day. And I was like, bro, were they really rapping like this back in the day? But
bruh,
that's
Hamilton
great.
Is fire.
It is.
Is it on Netflix or what?
It's on Disney Plus.
Oh, I have Disney Plus. Okay.
Bruh, it was fun. It was funny you brought that up because I was gonna bring it up, but I was like, oh, maybe not. It was.
Hey, yeah. So Shelby was like, let's watch Hamilton. I was like, what is Hamilton? She
I know.
Music. I was like, oh, here we go.
Yeah.
And as soon as it started, I was like,
they
spitting.
Yeah,
like, oh,
yeah.
This is dope. Like,
Yeah.
it's like, Hamilton is sweet. Billy, you got to watch it. You got to check it out.
So hey, before we wrap it up, AJ, but from the last 4 episodes of our podcast, if you had to, what are a couple words that come to mind if you had to sum them up and take those words and use it as a way to motivate our listeners today?
Oh man. The first word that would pop out my mind would be pride. And how we have to be able to set our pride aside. We had Henry Gracie on, and we talked about the importance of being confident in like your physical capabilities. And a lot of times as police officers, we become so prideful and so bullheaded because we have this, once again, it's a drug, the small taste of power, that we're like, I don't need to train in martial arts. I got a tool belt, or, no one's going to attack me. It's like, we've seen the videos. Ryan, I think I sent you a video where dude just turned around and socked the police officer. He just started teeing off on him on the ground. Like, stuff could happen. So, we talked to my man, who was shot, by was it Seattle? No, Pittsburgh police. And he set his pride aside and is willing to have a conversation with us. And we as police officers, we set our pride aside and had a conversation with him. And we both learned a lot, right? Like, I know personally, like, I learned a lot from that conversation, and I hope he did as well. The second word is exactly that, conversation. Is we have to be willing to have a conversation, and not a conversation with somebody who believes what you believe, not a conversation with somebody who looks like you, who acts like you, who talks like you. Like, have a conversation with somebody that drives you crazy, right? Like, if you can't stand Republicans, have a conversation with a Republican. If you can't stand Democrats, have a conversation with a Democrat. If you can't stand police officers, have a conversation with a police officer. If you're a police officer right now and you feel so attacked by your community, if it's wearing on you, I challenge you, get out your car and go to a park. And it might not work the first time, the first 4 times, the first 5 times, but I guarantee you eventually somebody's going to have a conversation with you, and it's going to be such a weight that is lifted off of your back because you were willing to have this conversation. You're going to be able to build a rapport with that person, and then it's going to be a domino effect. They're going to introduce you to somebody, and before you know it, your views may change, or you may have a better understanding of why people feel this way, or why people are saying what they're saying, why they're doing what they're doing. And then, man, lastly is faith. Faith, man, you have to have faith. In my faith is, being a believer and follower of Jesus Christ is, this, like you said, like, he's still in charge. And a lot of times we forget that. We want to, take the reins and go, I'm going to do this and I'm going to do this, and it doesn't work. And like, this negativity is constantly thrown your way. But like, at the end of the day, like, I serve an undefeated God, and that's a good feeling. Like, that is a good feeling, because I know at the end of the day, his track record is he got them Floyd numbers. So he getting in there, he's getting the job done. So, just have faith. Be able to set your pride aside and be willing to have a conversation.
Love it. Billy, same thing for you, man. A couple words that would sum, these last few episodes that we had up on the podcast, and then, basically a takeaway.
Yeah. So you've already said the word, but I think hope is the biggest word for me. Even today, we talked a lot about our frustrations and kind of like the headlines you see and like little snippets of what politicians are saying. Like, that can incite emotion, but there are people maybe that we're not even hearing about, or people we're connecting with behind the scenes that are trying to make positive change. Looking at what's happening, seeing the negative. Okay, where do we go from here? Like, that is happening. It doesn't get the numbers or the clicks online or the viewership, so we're just not seeing it as much, but it is happening, and we just have to have hope that it'll eventually start coming through and be seen. And then also the word faith. We just, especially us as believers, we need to make sure that we don't replace our faith or our religion with politics. Because a lot of people think like we can change people with legislation, but it's not a legislation problem. It's a heart problem. and we just, especially believers, we need to
Billy
just,
over here dropping nuggets.
Yeah, we need to just keep our minds focused on that, and we can't lose that focus. Or if believers start losing that focus, it's it's no positive from there.
Hey, Billy, have you heard that somewhere before? Did you just make that up?
Well, I've heard people talk about like legislation doesn't change hearts, yeah, but I think it's a good reminder for everyone.
Hey, he said it's not a legislative issue; it's a heart issue.
Hey,
yeah, I'm not the first one to say that. It's
if I was Billy, I'd be like, yeah, I just said that, man.
Yeah,
Shoot.
I made that bar.
Quote,
Shit.
Billy Stuckman. Shoot.
Yeah.
Copywritten, don't copy. Don't
Exactly. Man, I couldn't agree more with your words either, Billy. If I have to sum everything up, it would be faith, pride, and forgiveness. Faith, number one, is because that's kind of what gives me hope. Just knowing that, we can have our faith in Jesus Christ and knowing that He'll get us through the end, and He's still He's still the author. He's still the beginning and the end. Knowing that, like we say, weeping may come in the night, but joy comes in the morning time, or weeping may endure through the night, but joy comes in the morning time. It's because of Him. So having that faith, the faith that Artie had when he got sentenced to life in prison, and to know that he would be able to make it out on top, and still be able to accomplish what he wanted to do. The faith that Leon had after being shot 5 times by police, and knowing that, he may not ever walk like he used to walk before, but having the faith to endure the race, to raise his son, and to be a godly man and live a life that's dedicated toward change. The faith that Henner has to go out there and educate police officers on what it is to drop their pride and be, better equipped to go out and do their day job. That's the faith that we all need to have in many ways, knowing that our faith lies within Jesus Christ, but at the same time, He has also equipped us with the same power He has to go and do greater works than He has done. And it says that biblically. We talk about the pride, the fall of man was because of pride. The reason why you are facing some of these battles right now, the battle of good versus evil, is because of pride. Satan fell from heaven because of pride. And so the reason I say we have to drop our pride is because Leon had to drop his pride after being shot by 5 police officers, or being shot 5 times by police officers, and to be able to have a real conversation discussing how we can repair the issues that plague our society. He had to drop his pride. My man Artie had to drop his pride and say, you know what, I'm not fit for this gang life. I'm not fit to be like them. I'm not fit to go and kill people and hurt people in the name of a gang. He had to drop his pride and submit and say, you know what, I was wrong. He had to submit and say, you know what, I'm willing to go out there and do better. So Artie had to drop his pride. And then my man Henner, he finds his lessons through Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu to drop pride, to realize that even though he can go out there and do damage to somebody, even though he can go out there and hurt somebody, he walks with a meek spirit. And what a meek spirit is somebody that has strength under control, realizing that they have all the strength in the world, but it's under control. And that takes a lesson of dropping your pride to come to a realization that you can go out there and affect change, but you don't always have to be the loudest guy in the room. So pride. And then the last one is forgiveness. Artie found forgiveness in himself. Artie found forgiveness through the family of the person whose life he took. Artie lives with forgiveness in his life, which is what allows him to do what he does best right now, because he lives with that spirit of forgiveness. That is somebody that took another person's life and lives every single day knowing that, it's because of him that a person is no longer living, but through Jesus Christ, we all find forgiveness. And that is why you can come to terms and forgive or find forgiveness in your own heart if you've been the oppressor, or if you've been on the other end of it and been, oppressed against. You can find that forgiveness in your heart because Jesus Christ forgives us. The same forgiveness that Leon has experienced with police officers, whether or not he's forgiven those police officers that shot him, all I know is that he's come to a level of forgiveness because he was willing to sit down and have a conversation with 2 police officers who do the job of the same job of the ones that took his walking away from him. So that spirit of forgiveness. And then my man Henner, to know like, hey, when you're in a fight with somebody, being able to subdue them and not take their life, and have the techniques that they need in order, so that way you can give them another opportunity to go out there and do better and not have to, remove their life from them, because you find a level of forgiveness. So for me, it's faith, pride, and fitness, or not fitness, faith, pride, and forgiveness. Those are the 3 words that stand out to me from those last episodes episodes. And I just want to thank those guys again if they're listening to this episode. Thank them again for coming on. I want to thank you guys as our listeners for tuning in and sticking with us, because we are making change. We do have a voice. This is the real change that the world needs to see, and it's because of this podcast that allows us to go out there and have big platforms in order to go out there and stimulate that change in our neighborhood. So I thank you. I want to let you guys know that this podcast is, always being brought to you guys, Breaking Barriers United. But like we talked about last time, we will have some sponsors. I don't know. You want to name the potential sponsor, or let's hold off.
Let's wait. But I do want to add a plug in here.
Go ahead.
So, hey, we got a new email list. If you go to itsneededpodcast.com/email, you can go in there, put your name, your email. You get added to an email list. We're not going to be spammy, but we are going to have some content that's only on the emails. We are going to have some giveaways. And actually, we already had our first giveaway to 2 people in our It's Needed Podcast Facebook group exclusively. So if you're not in that, also join the Facebook group as well. But yeah, itsneededpodcast.com/email. Join the email list and content and giveaways.
Let's do it, guys. I mean, this was a good episode. I think we needed it. It was another good vent session. Sometimes we have to get comfortable in having these uncomfortable conversations, and this was another one of them. So if you guys, again, appreciate all of our listeners out there. Continue. If you guys like the podcast, give us a 5-star rating, give us a 5-star review. Let us know why you like it. Let us know if there's any room for improvement. And if you're not already doing so, please join our It's Needed Podcast group on Facebook. Me, Billy, and AJ actively engage you guys through conversation, some more than others.
Not so much AJ anymore.
Hey, free me, y'all. Free me from Facebook.
Can you still get on there or no?
No, defund the Facebook police. That's what we need to be defunded.
Well, I guess. Well, you guys didn't really like him anyway. So the main ones, me and Billy, are.
They only like Billy.
That's true. That is true.
I mean, I'll always be the winner of this Christmas sweater. So.
Oh man. So, but get on there, join our It's Needed Podcast group. If you guys want to have some real conversations, AJ, you can just use my account, bruh. Just don't hack me.
I don't want your account. I don't want your account.
Texas.
I know. So, hey, but we love you guys. If you guys have any special guests that you guys would like to hear featured on this podcast, please reach out to them for us, and we will reach out to them for you, and we'll make that connection. So we love you guys. We thank you guys, and God bless, and we'll see y'all next week.
Peace.